Hello and welcome to Alone in the South Passage, a Star Wars podcast with me, David, and my good friend Stefan. Steff, how are you?
Hello, I'm doing well, thank you, David. How are you doing?
Very good, very good. I feel like I should just
Good.
make a recording of that response and just play it back to myself every week.
I don't know. One day I'll be like, "Oh, do you know what? I'm
I've had a bit of a rough
terrible.
week.
It's
Yeah.
not been a good one. I'm not going to lie. I'll bring all that negativity into the recording,
No,
and
negativity.
it'll be
It's not
great."
negativity. It's honesty. It's good. It's good. It's not good,
No, I
obviously.
ain't
It wouldn't
good.
be good if you'd had a terrible week. But I feel like
No.
we need to make an open,
It's
have a
honest.
forum, an honest forum that says
Yeah,
you got your problems. Bring your problems to this forum and
yeah.
tell us what's
What's
going on.
well, I've got this rash. Maybe you could have a look at it. Just to check,
I'm
see what you
looking at
think.
no. I have no desire to look at any part of your body.
Oh no, we both know
But
that's not true.
unless if it
It's on
really
a
would
sun
help you.
lounger.
If it really would help you, I would do it, but
Oh,
only if there's literally no medical professional within
well,
100 miles.
I think you know my body better than my GP, to be honest. So
No.
I think you're very qualified for this.
Move along, move along. Right, that's enough of this.
Anyway,
That's enough. We've
okay.
gone in a horrible direction, and
No, we
we
have.
need to change. We need to change. We're going to be talking about the music of Star Wars this week. Anyone who listened
Mhm.
last week may have heard us preface that. Before we do, though, let's just do our usual and chat some shit about what we've been doing this week. So, Steph,
Mm,
have you been up to anything? I understand actually that we may have had some correspondence that you want to
we
share with
have.
the listeners.
Yeah. So, Alone in the South Passage superfan Phil has been in touch to tell
Well,
us
Phil.
off.
Oh, what the
No,
fuck we
he
done
might not
now?
be saying that. We're being told off. Now, he's saying that we are
I mean, I'm already
moaning.
making a list in my head of things that I've done. That, oh no, like
It's not a technicality per se. He just says last few weeks he feels like we've been moaning too much about the lack of original sci-fi content that's out there, and he sent me a big list that proves otherwise, which I'm not going to read out, but it exists.
any
But
highlights? What highlights? Go on.
well, he's just mentioned. Oh, you're going to make me dig the bloody email out
No,
now, aren't you?
just a little. I thought you might be prepared with this
Well,
email.
I just rest assured there's a list that exists. I can pass it on. But on
Anything off the
TV,
top of your
we've had stuff like Humans. I mean, he has argued that all the Disney stuff, a lot of it is actually original sci-fi in and of itself. He mentioned some of the
well,
films that have been out.
like
Well, I'll tell you what. But the point is, he says we're starting to sound like moany old men, but that's ridiculous because we've always been moany old men. So how could we have only just
yeah, I was
started?
gonna say
Doesn't make any sense.
we're not starting to sound like money old men. We are firmly in that space.
Exactly. So that
Okay,
ship
Phil.
has
Right,
sailed, unfortunately.
I don't necessarily disagree with Phil. I think a lot of our conversation has revolved around uh, perhaps unoriginal ideas. Is that unfair? Like
Mm,
converting comic books, loads of comic book stuff. Which don't get me wrong, I'm not against. I've
yeah.
said this before. Like the Marvel stuff is great, but I think it's not just. To be fair, it's not just something of the streaming era. I think unoriginal sci-fi or original sci-fi studios have been very guarded about making original sci-fi for a long time now.
Yeah.
When, to be fair, certainly in the last decade, I can think of a couple of big instances when people have had their fingers burnt. What was
Mm,
that one? Jupiter Ascending.
yeah.
I mean, that didn't do well, but it certainly wasn't good. Well, in my opinion, other opinions are available.
No, I didn't see that one.
Something like that. What was the other one? Was it John Carter? Not John Carter. There was another one about some versus the universe or something. And yeah, like I say, there's several things. I take the point about Disney stuff primarily. Actually, a lot of the Disney stuff, whether it's Marvel, Star Wars, whatever else, sci-fi, but then it's all just big franchise stuff, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, the upshot is I've promised Phil that if I hear you moaning about this again, I'm to prod you and remind you, and I've now got the list up to remind you of stuff like Gravity, Hunger Games, Arrival, Interstellar. On the small screen, we've had Black Mirror, Devs, Humans, The Expanse, and Everything Everywhere All at Once has just won Best Picture at the Oscars.
Fair enough. So, actually, yeah, that's Everything Everywhere All at Once. I was about to say to you, let's look at the years that those feel like. Interstellar's nearly, 10 years old?
Yeah, but that's right in our wheelhouse, though, isn't
it?
And
well, yeah, I guess so.
We don't know anything younger than
I can't believe he's gone for something more current.
Yeah. Brand
actually, while we're on that subject, one glaring thing we haven't mentioned is obviously Oppenheimer, which I don't know about you, Steff. I'm intending to see that this week, so we'll probably have a little. If you have the opportunity to do that, maybe we can have a chat about it next week.
I do desperately want to see it. I've heard it's sold out in all sorts of places. Like the IMAX, even like the 4 a.m. showing was booked out. Like, yeah, apparently it's massively selling theatres out. So you might even struggle to get somewhere short notice. But yeah, great news if that's true.
That is great news. That is fantastic news. I was with someone today who saw it at the weekend, and they assure me that it is worth every bit of hype that it is getting. So I
heard it's classic Nolan in as much as you come out of it more confused than you went in.
despite the fact it's a well-known story, you're just like, what's happened there?
Apparently, if you need a very deep understanding of the historic facts to pick up on some of it. So I think it's a classic second or third viewing is when you're going to probably get a bit more information out of it.
Okay.
But yeah, heard good things about that. Definitely want to see it. Yeah.
Good.
But just, I guess worth mentioning as well, the actor and the writer strikes at the minute. We know for a fact that is going to impact the new Star Wars movies that were slated for the next year or 2 years or 3 years. Timelines have already slipped as a result, obviously with good reason. But just a bit of hot news off the press there.
Absolutely. I'd be interested to know. I'm assuming that they've already every episode of Ahsoka is already.
Ahsoka's done. It's in the can.
Yeah.
Maybe a bit of last minute jiggery pokery, but essentially that's got a month and that's out, or less than a month now.
Yeah, but that's later episodes though. I mean, there might be. Is there anything that might still need a bit of, as you say, a little
potentially
bit of topping up that won't be able to do it? I mean, look, it's like anything. They'll find a way to sort it out. It will get sorted.
Of course.
Then again, I've been saying about train strikes for the last year. They will get sorted.
That's a whole you accountable for that.
Yeah, it's a different thing entirely though. It's not our government doing it, so it's probably going to be all right.
Quite.
No offense, but fuck them.
Bastards. Bloody rail strikes. What have you been up to this week anyway?
Oh, I'll be honest, mate. I've been travelling and I'm a bit knackered. I've been travelling for work, my actual job, not this. So I
never told me you were moonlighting.
A bit shattered. So, but I've had a nice week. I think it did afford me the opportunity to do because I've been travelling by train. So I had quite a while just sat doing nothing. I managed to watch a film. So I managed to watch Dune again, which the remake of
the
Dune.
New one.
Yeah, because I think the sequels. I can't remember when the sequel's coming out, but it's not far off.
Next year, I think.
Yeah. So I've rewatched that. To be honest, it's reappeared on Prime. So it's probably reappeared on Prime because it's due out and they want to start
build that hype up.
So
I'm looking forward to that sequel. I enjoyed that film. It's good.
Yeah, it's good. Very good indeed. Very good. So I watched that. Other than that, not a huge amount else. Not a huge amount. Not of any great noteworthiness, at least. So,
enjoying the fine weather.
There was one thing. One thing, and I assure you. So my wife and I were having a conversation, and I jokingly, I was jotting down a few notes in preparation for this evening's recording, and I very sort of jokingly turned to her when she said to me, "Right, oh, what are you doing?" I said, "I'm just making a few notes about Star Wars, the music of Star Wars." And I jokingly responded with, "Have you got any thoughts?"
Right.
I'll be honest, her first response, I won't repeat in civilized society. It wasn't very kind. It wasn't very kind at all.
X-rated response.
And then she actually tried to have a go. At giving a more sensible response. And she said to me, what was that thing? Was it what was it called? Was it Attack of the Drones? Or I was like, oh, so close. So close. But no.
Bless your heart for trying.
Go back to doing what you're doing. So I poured scorn on her efforts.
Wasn't even music related. She's just trying to name a Star Wars film.
Yeah, I've heard of. Basically, yeah. It's like, yeah, not heard of Empire Strikes Back or Return of the Jedi or anything like that, but Attack of the Drones.
Yeah, weird. She went for that one.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Would have been weirder if she said Solo. What's that thing? Solo.
Solo, a Star Wars movie. Yes,
that'd be the way. I tell you, if ever she'd like listen to us in secret and was going to get caught out, that would be if you mentioned Solo, I'd be like, hang on a minute,
why? What's going
where
on?
have you got this information from? So no,
it's
other than that,
up.
No, absolutely. So anyway, right, okay, let's stop talking nonsense. Well, actually, let's talk nonsense about something else for a bit. Music of Star Wars, which we've both spoken about in the past and just essentially got very excited about. I was about to use some stronger language, but I decided not fair on the listeners to paint that graphic picture.
Yeah.
So just to highlight a couple of things about the music in terms of its history and how great, not just we think it is, but how great the wider world thinks it is. Okay, so the original film, it won best Oscar, should I say, for original score and sound in 1978. Empire Strikes Back, then again, it's not technically music, but sound. I think plays a very important role in this. Best sound for Empire Strikes Back in 1981, and then Return of the Jedi received Oscar nominations for both sound and original score. I'm not surprised it didn't win original score for Return of the Jedi, given that 90% of it is stuff that appeared in earlier films. So calling it original score. Don't be wrong, there's a few which we'll get onto in a bit. I've got some stuff I want to highlight. There are a few original bits, but it's very much
rehashing.
A bit of jiggery pokery. So there was. Needless to say, there's some significant clout there when it comes to the music. So in reality, Steff, or in reality, what the fuck does that mean? I don't even know where I'm going with that sentence.
Virtually.
Let's start again. Let's start that sentence again. Okay. Stefan, when you were a wee lad, if you ever were a wee lad,
no.
What about the music struck you? And did you even consider the music to be anything different from the film, or was it all just one big package for you?
Well, that's a good question. That I think it was always, the music's always synonymous with the movie. Of course, it's like you couldn't really separate the two. You know, even as a kid, the excitement came from that fanfare at the beginning, that explosion and the text and the noise. That was as much a part of it than anything else. I never really thought about it in terms of this is music I'd listen to outside of watching the films. That's something that's come a lot more recently, but it was always something I felt, because classical music, when you're a kid, it may as well be 1,000 years old for all you know. Like, it's so different to what's in the pop charts or whatever else, isn't it? It is alien in itself to you as a child. So it kind of just worked, really, and you wouldn't have it any other way. I mean, if they'd have used, contemporary music of the time, fucking Bee Gees on the soundtrack or something, that would have been very different, I think.
It's interesting that you mentioned that as well, though, because I think that was one of the big things about the score in the first film, because the score was a relatively late addition. I don't think it was necessarily they weren't necessarily assured that John Williams was going to do something for the first one as they were making it, because I think a lot of the first cuts, I know they were watching. I think there's one particular story where George Lucas invited a group of his friends. When I say a group of his friends, like, this isn't just a random group of mates. This group of friends included Spielberg, Coppola, various
all the
others.
guys from film school.
Yeah, absolutely. For a viewing, and they viewed it without a score, and they were all like, "Yeah, it's okay,
it's all right."
Actually, I think Steven Spielberg was like, I don't know what you're trying to do here, mate. I don't know. I can't follow the story. But then they rewatched it with the score, and they were like, "Fuck!" It's amazing.
Oh wow, yeah, that's the power.
Coming back to your point about the age of it and the timelessness of it, like, part of that is the classical music element. It's like the fact that,
of course,
they could have. There's loads of, particularly in sort of late 70s, early 80s, loads of sci-fi at the time, which was using, like, just starting to use electronic music and whatever else, which has, let's face it, not dated very well.
No.
And I say, actually, no, that's not fair, but it does date it. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, totally.
And I think that the use of classical music and the classical score has definitely helped Star Wars remain timeless.
Yes.
There is nothing to pin it necessarily in the late 70s.
Yeah, except the hairdos.
Even they're not crazy, are they? Even then,
no,
they're quite conservative, those hairdos.
I guess so. Yeah,
maybe for that reason, or maybe just because that's what George Lucas liked.
Maybe. No, he did like a longer bob himself, didn't he? At that time, when he had enough hair to do it,
and a beard,
Oh, love a beard.
Right. Okay. Now we've shared our initial thoughts. Let's have a quick interval, and we'll come back and discuss in a little more detail some of the music from the movies and also the wider universe itself.
Mm-hmm.